Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chona, and in this video training I'm going to talk to you about my thoughts about the future of American behavior. Everything that we are going through right now, I think, is going to fundamentally alter the way we think, the way we behave in many ways. And again, all of these are just my personal opinions, and this is what I think is going to happen to us in the future. I'm going to go over 5 things in this training video. The first thing is, when I believe this whole crisis will be truly and definitively behind us, when we don't have to look over our shoulder anymore, and when we can finally return to some semblance of normalcy. The second, why I think that this will start to occur, or why this will start to dissipate in waves across America. I don't think it's going to be an on-off switch throughout the country. The third thing I'm going to talk about is what I think the new normal will look like, and all of the lessons that we learned as a country after 9/11 I think will come into play here, because I think a lot of things will change in the new normal. I also think that there'll be a much closer analysis of the wealth disparity between the rich and the poor, because what this crisis has done is it's sort of exposed the differences between the rich and the poor like never before in our country. And finally, I believe that there'll be a much greater focus on public health. There'll be a much greater focus on trials, on tests, on public health education, as opposed to just finding the next miracle cure for cancer or for heart disease, because those have been the focuses that have received a lot of funding, a lot of exposure, a lot of emphasis on medical breakthroughs. But really, our infrastructure, our architecture on public health has essentially been neglected. So with all that being said, if you're a member of our community, welcome back. If you're not a member of our community yet, please consider subscribing. Also, please click the like button below. That really helps out the YouTube algorithm. And please click the notification button, smash the notification button so that you can get a real-time alert whenever I receive a new training video. I'm excited and I'm eager to see your thoughts and your comments about this video training in the comment section below. Let's get started. When do I think this whole crisis will be truly and definitively behind us? There's been a lot of talk about various kinds of treatments, various kinds of therapies, and I believe that until there's a cure or until there's a vaccine, which hopefully there will be soon, because normally vaccines take several years to develop, but everything's happening at light speed right now because the whole world really needs this vaccine. So in my opinion, until there's a cure for those who already have this illness, or until there's a vaccine to prevent individuals from getting the illness, just like we have a flu vaccine, until there's either a cure or a vaccine, I don't think this will be truly and definitively behind us. I think that we're essentially going to have to live with this, and if you're going to ask yourself, when is life going to be normal? I mean, what is your definition of normal? Is your definition of normal how life was in January and February? Going to a grocery store, bumping into someone else, being at a ball game, having a party, handshaking, hugging people. That was our sense of normal, right? I believe the new normal will have some differences in it, and I'll get to that in a couple of minutes. But again, I feel this will be truly and definitively behind us only when we have a cure or when we have a vaccine. Until then, all of the other treatments that we've talked about, what they generally tend to do is they tend to shorten the recovery time, they tend to reduce symptoms, they tend to reduce discomfort, but again, they are neither a cure nor a vaccine. And I'm hoping that by the time you watch this training, whenever that is, it's, as recently as when I make this video or sometime in the future, by that time, a vaccine has already been found. Knock on wood. I hope that that really happens sooner rather than later, because I believe that if there's one country that can make it happen, it's going to be us. We need it. All our citizens need it. And every single person in the world at some point is going to need a vaccine like that, including countries that can't afford to build a vaccine. And so I hope that we can come up with a breakthrough for the vaccine. The second, why I believe this will occur in waves across America. I actually had traveled overseas in the month of February, and I landed at JFK, at John F. Kennedy Airport in New York on the 2nd of March. And I expected there to be some sort of quarantine, some sort of screening process. And to be honest, at that time, there was none. I was just able to walk out, and obviously the immigration official asked me, hey, have you been to China? And I hadn't, and I said no, but there was no screening at that point. And I believe one of the reasons that we are seeing a huge surge in cases in New York and New Jersey, in California, is not only because those areas are densely populated, but also because there's a lot of air travel into those places from other parts of the world. I mean, if you're going to fly into the US from Europe or from any other parts of the world, you're more than likely going to end up in New York, or in Newark, New Jersey, or possibly even in Florida, but more likely the Northeast. Also, if you're going to fly from the other side of the world, from Australia or from other parts of the world, you're going to land in Los Angeles, and you're going to land in San Diego and in the different airports in California. That's why I believe that it has a lot to do with the spread that we've seen in those areas, if you will. So I believe that as we start to recover from this, I believe that areas that initially got impacted will start to recover, but other areas will start to see pockets. And as you can see, some states are opening, some states still have restrictions in place. As states start to open gradually, we'll start to see, hopefully, what is a return to normalcy, but we also might see an uptick in the infection rate. So what I expect is that this will occur in waves and crests throughout the country. I don't think that we're going to have one day when it stops across the country. It's just not possible. The United States is a huge country. There's just so much ground to cover. There's individuals living all over. There's individuals living in small suburban areas, in rural areas. There's individuals living in crowded cities. So there's, the standard of living is different. The social proximity is different. Some individuals are following social distancing. Some individuals aren't. So what's going to happen is this is going to, again, go in waves and crests throughout the country. And I think that we could potentially see this for several months until, like I mentioned, until a cure is developed, until a cure is found, or until a vaccine is developed. So my anticipation is that at some level, we'll be dealing with this in some form or another. And I think the new normal will involve us wearing face masks, will involve us doing social distancing, will involve us possibly reconsidering whether we want to go to whether we want to go to a game, whether we want to sit shoulder to shoulder with someone else at a restaurant. Hopefully all of that returns back to normal. But again, until a cure, until a vaccine is found, I think that there'll be a fundamental fear in all of us. You see, the federal government and the states are talking about opening up businesses, are talking about having everything open again. And it is, it looks good on TV. It sounds good. I guess it's a good way to score political brownie points. And again, I'm not going to talk about the right versus the left. My focus is to focus on objective data. But the fact is, unless individuals are comfortable, feel confident to step out and do something, I feel that it's going to take time. I can talk about myself now. Me and my wife, my 5-year-old son, my 2-year-old daughter, and my 75-year-old mother, who, by the way, lives with us. We'd go to a restaurant every Saturday night. We'd go to our favorite diner on Sunday morning. My kids would get the chocolate chip pancakes. And then when we'd go out for dinner, my wife loves the avocado egg wraps at Cheesecake Factory. Guess what? When Cheesecake Factory opens, when the diner opens, I'm not sure that we'll be going right away. I think we'll wait several weeks, potentially several months, even if those places are open. And I believe that all of us have this fear, this apprehension, this nervousness, this hesitation that prevents us from going out there and doing the things that we would normally do. Again, when a vaccine comes along, I think we'll all start to feel a lot more confident. I also think this is going to be state specific. If some states open much faster than others and see a surge in the pandemic, a surge in the infection rates, then I think that could result in a setback for that particular state. So again, this is going to happen in waves and in crests throughout the country. I don't think it's going to be something that just goes like this and switches off across the country. The third thing, what the new normal might look like. Now, after 9/11, I believe we fundamentally changed as a country. There was a new focus on security. There was the whole airline, the whole airport screening process changed completely, having to take your shoes off, being accustomed to an air marshal on the plane, just overall having the Patriot Act and having all these sort of measures built into our lives, which made us want to essentially sacrifice certain liberties, if you will, so that we could stay safe, so that we could feel safe. Being patted down at the airport when you're trying to get through security, all of those things. Our world fundamentally changed after 9/11. I'm talking about our day-to-day life, the way we go about doing things. Now, what's going to happen after this particular crisis is there going to be some changes as well. I think a lot of us will wear face masks longer than we need to. A lot of us will intentionally practice social distancing. Even after this is long gone, I think a lot of us might want to change the way our kids get educated. I mean, maybe parents would want some kids to do homeschooling. Maybe parents would say, hey, I don't want you going out of state. I want you to be in our state, because our state, the college in our state, well, it might not be as good as that college out of state, but guess what? I know that the infection rates are lower in this state, so I want you going to college in this state. I want you being close to me. So all of those things are going to be the new normal. I am confident that things will return back to normal, but I do think that it's going to take longer than all of us anticipate, because the real fundamental behavioral change, the real shift in our emotional, in our physical, social, spiritual, in our intellectual framework is only just beginning. I think that emotionally we are going to hesitate a lot more. Physically, we're going to practice distancing. Socially, we're only going to be comfortable with our immediate family members and being physically close to them. Spiritually, we're going to ask ourselves what matters to us. Hey, my health is important to me, so I'm not going to put myself at risk. Maybe I'm going to go to the grocery store at 6 o'clock in the morning when no one else is likely to be there. And intellectually, you're going to ask yourself, why did this happen? What could we have done differently? What do I need to do? Do I need to take better care of my health? Should I cut out certain habits, and should I maybe do other things like maybe exercise more and eat more healthy so I can build up my own immunity? I think all of these things are going to come into play, and all of these things essentially are going to be part of the new normal in America. The next point, I think there's going to be a much closer analysis on the wealth disparity between the rich and the poor. I've talked about this in another video training, but according to an Oxfam, which is a charitable organization that was founded in 1942 in the United Kingdom, according to a study done by Oxfam in the first quarter of 2017, the 8 richest individuals in the world, and a majority of them were Americans, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, obviously, and Mark Zuckerberg, a lot of these individuals, when you combine their wealth, and most of them, like I said, were Americans, they had more money than half the human race. So there's a significant wealth disparity between the rich and the poor. And I think what this crisis has shown us is that the individuals who are poor, who are living paycheck to paycheck, who are low wage earners, who struggle to make their rents because they've gone a month without pay, those individuals now will start to ask themselves, hey, what is actually happening here? Why is the wealth disparity so high? But on the other hand, you have the wealthy individuals, they can retreat to their summer homes. They can have private doctors. They can have their own essential private hospital that has the tests that they need, whereas the individual who is living a low wage in a low income area may not have access to that kind of healthcare. So I think this will fundamentally make us re-examine, why is there such an imbalance? What can be done to potentially level the playing field? So I think those are financial, economic, those are political considerations, and I think a lot of those things will come into play. And to be honest, I refer to it as the collective rage of America, because I think that individuals will look back at this and say, wait a minute, how is it that individuals of certain income levels, even certain ethnicities, were impacted more as a result of this infection than others? So we're going to look back at this, and I think that leads me to the next point. I think there's going to be a fundamental re-engineering of public health systems. I'm not just talking about clean air. I'm not talking about clean water. I'm talking about having fundamental good public health systems, the infrastructure in place to conduct tests, the infrastructure in place to educate people, the infrastructure in place to help people even if they're in a poor socio-economic area, the infrastructure in place to have transport for somebody who needs help, and who's going to pay for all of these things. So I think a lot of these things are actually going to come into play very, very quickly. We need good information. We need well-designed studies. We need studies that tell us about the prevalence of infection amongst all individuals, amongst all ethnicities. And when this information is given to states, I'm talking about the public health infrastructure, the states can now make more informed decisions about which parts of the county, which businesses should reopen, which communities should reopen, so that the economy can gradually get back on track. And that's a much more smarter, much more strategic approach, which we are all capable of. So with all that being said, I hope you got some good information out of this video. If you have any questions or comments, please type them below. I appreciate you being a part of my community. And if you're not, please consider clicking the like button. Please consider clicking the subscribe button. A lot of effort, a lot of research goes into the creation of these videos, and it would mean a lot to me if you click the like button, because that helps the YouTube algorithm significantly. Also click the notification button so you can get informed instantly of future updates. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.